Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we discuss day-to-day problems people face in their lives. Let's start with the video.
I'm a 30-year-old female living with my husband in an apartment complex. I have an older sister with 2 kids, nephew 3 and niece 6. Her husband, kid's stepdad, and I don't get along and disagree on a lot of things. I don't know if the real problem is me or him, but he has resentment towards me. I watch my sister's kids from time to time, and her husband is fine with it as far as I know. Last week, we all met at my uncle's home except my husband. Brother-in-law and I got into a stupid argument when brought up my husband's mental struggle and made fun of it. I embarrassed him by saying at least my husband has a real struggle and not neglecting his stepkids to go gamble with his friends and get his wife into debts to pay. He got offended and made a scene and then left. My sister came over the next day and kids and apologized then, asked if I could watch the kids till 1 p.m. I said absolutely. The kids are innocent in this and my sister is trying to make a living to pay off debts. At 10 a.m., my husband was asleep when the door knocked and I opened and there was a cop standing outside. First, I thought my unhinged mother called the cops, another story, but was shocked when the cops told me that my brother-in-law called them claiming I was having his stepkids stay with me despite him not agreeing. I told him there must have been a misunderstanding because the kid's mother brought them to me to babysit after she asked and I said yes as their aunt. I even called my sister and put her on the speakerphone and she was confused. She told the cop her husband knew and had no problem with her bringing the kids over to me and even gave permission. At this point, I figured brother-in-law was trying to get back at me because of our argument. I was terrified because if my sister didn't confirm what I said, then my brother-in-law could have framed me for God knows what, especially after he claimed that my husband was mentally unstable. The cop took my sister's contact information and told her to come pick up the kids. This was ruled out as a family dispute, but I was shaken up by what happened because I had unpleasant encounters with the authorities, but this cop seemed understanding yet strict. My sister said she got into a fight with her husband for basically calling the cops and lying to them to get back at me and kept apologizing, saying this won't happen again. I was upset. I said I don't care and won't be babysitting the kids for her anymore because, like I said, I have so much on my plate and don't want issues with the authorities. She begged, saying she's struggling with money and cannot afford a babysitter now. She reminded me of how much she supported me in the past, which is true, and I felt bad for not wanting to help her, while she's struggling knowing her husband is the problem. But I suggested her husband to step up since he doesn't want me watching the stepkids, but she says it's complicated. So am I wrong for saying this? Not the a-hole. Of course you can't babysit again. I'm sorry for your sister and the kids, but there's just no way you can be expected to put yourself in that situation again. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I would never see the children without the sister present. To call the cops on you when you're doing them a favor is just sociopathic. Don't risk it. The cops are not a freaking dog that you can just sick on people because you don't like them. Don't you do it, fellow readers. I know you want to. There are real repercussions to this. What your brother-in-law did was over the line, and you can't put you and yours in a position like that. I'm sorry for your sister, but she can't control her husband's actions. She can't guarantee that this won't happen again, and she's wrong for guilting you about it when it was his actions that caused this. Not the a-hole. You cannot babysit for her ever again. You cannot be alone with her children ever again. Can you imagine what would happen if she would not have been able to answer the phone or come over? You might have been arrested and lost your jobs over it, and CPS might have taken your kids away. Sadly, you need to go no contact with brother-in-law and not be alone with your sister's children again. What if next time you're accused of sexual misconduct? You are now on report with the police for a domestic family dispute concerning children. That can hurt you a lot. Do not let that happen a second time. You can babysit again if and when your sister is divorced and has full custody, but not before. Talk to a lawyer if you can, sue him for slander, and ask if there are other steps you need to take to protect yourself. Not the a-hole. Your comment to your brother-in-law was petty but totally understandable in defense of your husband. Now that you know brother-in-law makes everyone else's life difficult rather than facing his own demons, your contact with him and your sister needs to be carefully planned. You need to protect your own livelihood before that of anyone else first. If you want to still help out babysitting for your sister, you probably want to write up a contract that she and brother-in-law sign starting when they are contracting you for your services. Also, your sister should look into getting out of that marriage ASAP. I wouldn't babysit for them either if I were you. He crossed a line and then some. Your sister shouldn't be upset at you for not wanting to watch them. She should be upset at her husband for making a bogus call to the cops. Although I'm concerned that your sister is in an abusive relationship. It's complicated. What? So either he refuses to watch the kids or there's a reason he isn't allowed to. I'm guessing he refuses. Either way, combine that with the fact that he mocks someone's mental illness and he is gambling them into the poorhouse, and now this. I would ask the sister what she's getting out of the marriage that keeps her in it. He's obviously a monster. If she leaves him, she won't have his debt. Original poster can watch the kids again, and those children will be safe from a clearly toxic person. Toxic doesn't seem like a strong enough word, honestly. Dangerous, I would say. Next story. My husband, 31 male, and I have been married for a few months. It was a long distance relationship, and he met my parents' family a handful of times. Usually, when my family visits, I cook their favorite meals for them, and my husband doesn't like any of those meals and always complains about not finding something to eat despite me offering to include his favorite meals. He'd usually sit with them at the table out of politeness, but only eats appetizers and salads and nothing else. My family noticed and asked about it, and he said he doesn't like what was on the menu. He also complains that I keep leftovers for days later, and I don't cook till leftovers are consumed by me, of course, while he eats fast food. My family planned to visit today. I prepared their favorite meals and all, but they called me in the morning and apologized for not being able to come due to family issues, which is fine. Everything cooked was placed in the fridge. I told my husband, and he wasn't thrilled and said, "Great, now who's going to eat all that unwanted food?" He asked me when I'm going to cook, and I said till the fridge is empty and there are no leftovers. He made a face and blurted he won't eat fast food for the next few days as well. Later, I saw him taking the trash out, which was earlier than usual, but I didn't give it much attention till I went to grab milk from the fridge and saw all the containers that had meals I'd cooked earlier empty completely, except for one. I immediately confronted him, and he said the food smelled funny, and there was one container that smelled kind of fine, so he left it alone and threw everything else away. I blew up on him, calling him nuts and unreasonable to throw away edible food and let it go to waste just because he wanted me to cook fresh meals that he likes. He argued that I shouldn't be cooking my family their favorite food every time and should just have them eat what we usually eat, and said he was so tired of eating fast food till I'm ready to cook again. I told him I wouldn't be cooking again after this stunt and that he needed to deal with it after throwing away money and energy I spent on the food he threw away. He said I can't blame him because my family chose to not come and that they were the ones who wasted my effort. I refused to argue further after I said he could have told me so I could send the food to my family instead of throwing it away. He apologized, but only for not asking me first, but he still says I went overboard by saying I won't cook for him again. He just left to meet his friends to vent, and I'm still upset over what we both just said to each other during the fight. Edit. Okay, I feel I should add that the food I cook is Asian. My family are originally from Asia while my husband is American. I learned to cook his favorite meals, but he was never open to try and cook by himself, saying it's never gonna work and he'd never make a single decent dish. He said cooking just isn't his thing and called it a lost cause. Not the a-hole. You might have rushed into getting married a little quickly. The fact that he decided to get rid of food you made and would eat because he doesn't like it is a huge red flag. He threw it away because you said you wouldn't cook any more food until the food in the fridge was gone. He turned your word, so got rid of the food is a major a-hole move. He knew what you meant and now is forcing you into cooking for him. I can't imagine living with someone like that. Your husband is using strategic incompetence in order to pressure you into cooking for him since he can't cook. Throwing away the food because he thinks that will force you to cook for him is even worse. You've been married for a couple of months and he's already emotionally abusive. Consider therapy to help you explore your feelings and whether or not this is a relationship that you want to continue. Honestly, for him to be this racist and say your food smells funny and refuse to eat the stuff is enough for a divorce for me. On top of him disrespecting your family and their favorite foods and being unwilling to cook for himself, the icing on the terrible husband cake is that he threw all the food out and therefore money, just because he's an insufferable who didn't want you even eating the leftovers, when he could easily just make himself grilled cheese or anything else even if he can't cook. Not the a-hole. Not to be rude, but why are you married to a low-key racist? The way his attitude skyrockets by the presence of your family and, in my opinion, absolutely phenomenal Asian food. I feel like his hostility plays a key role in my accusation. By the way, I'm fully aware it is 1,000% me making an assumption, and by no means do I mean any offense. It's totally fine if he doesn't like Asian cuisine, to each their own, but to be so opposed that instead of making himself a fried egg sandwich, he maliciously wasted your perfectly good food just to make a statement. He didn't think it smelled funny. That's a direct insult. He's saying that the food you make, the food from your culture, smells funny, period. That's an absolute insult if I've ever heard one. My very terrible, very unfortunately racist family makes snide comments like that all the time if they ever smell any other cuisine that isn't gravy covered potatoes, and they do it intentionally to hurt those who enjoy the food. Take a step back and ask yourself, any other red flags in this situationship? Not the a-hole. Divorce immediately. He fundamentally does not respect you, period. His stunt was nothing short of an abusive power control tactic. He has options other than fast food. He can learn to cook. Many meals are basic and easy. He isn't the victim. Of course, when your Asian family comes over, you're going to cook them their favorite and most enjoyable meals. It's your heritage. You're sharing and connecting through food. That's awesome. Your husband should be more open to trying new foods or learn to make his own. Why is it you must make him everything, but he doesn't have to make you your favorite foods? Seriously, he was beyond out of line. This is not about the food itself, and it's absolutely going to get worse. Next story. I, 23 male, have been dating my girlfriend Jane, 21 female, for nearly a year. We go to separate colleges about 40 minutes away from one another, but we see each other multiple times a week. I've noticed that she always prefers to come to my apartment in a small town rather than me visiting her at her apartment. When we talk about family, she's always very reserved and just tells me she's not that close with hers. As far as friends go, I've met a great deal of her high school and college friends that all seem average. Now, she's always presented herself as a broke college student and will actively say that fact whenever money comes up and laughs it off. However, I've noticed over the months that despite saying that, she refuses to eat fast food. She likes going on impromptu mini vacations, which by her standard are just staying within the country but are by no means cheap. She drives a car worth $70,000. Last night, we met up with a few of her childhood friends to shoot pool. A few of them noticed that I drive a Tesla that I just bought for myself, brand new this year. It's my pride and joy, and I will admit that I've done quite well for myself over time in building up my own income. Here's where the red flags start. They all call her by a different name. Rather than her name that I and all her friends I've met before call her by, they were calling her something else completely. All of these friends were also foreign, coming from Brazil, Spain, Ivory Coast, and etc. Eventually, while talking about my car, a Brazilian girl named Camila asked Jane if she intended to ask her father to buy her one. Jane shrugged it off awkwardly with a maybe. Throughout the night, it became glaringly obvious that all of these childhood friends came from extremely wealthy families, so I asked Jane how she met them. She said they all went to school together overseas for a while and went to summer camps together. Jane also spoke to most of them in languages other than English, mostly French or Spanish, as that's what they all seemed to know besides English. After we left back to my place, I asked her what the deal was, and she said that she does come from a well-off family, and the name her friends call her was her actual name. She just went by a more common one when she came to our state because it was easier for people to pronounce. I felt miffed that she had been lying about her source of income for what seems like years, and that she actually had a lot more money than she had let on. I asked her if I could take a look at her Venmo, in which I see regular deposits from her father, ranging from $400 to $1,000 weekly as an allowance. I called her a trust fund baby and told her that she's a liar for pretending that she doesn't actually have money when she clearly does, and that she's masquerading around lower classes and likes looking at how we all live. She got extremely upset with me and left and is still refusing to speak to me. Am I the a-hole? Sorry, you're the a-hole. A lot of rich people avoid talking about their wealth because it becomes a thing and people insult them with names like trust fund baby. She had been lying about her source of income for what seems like years. This is designed to manipulate. You're saying seems like years, but you've been dating her for less than a year. I asked her if I could take a look at her Venmo. At this point, you should have been told to F off. Major privacy violation. Even with her permission, it was very rude. The whole reason people with money avoid talking about it is to avoid it being made a big deal of by people like you, and avoiding people who are only there for money. Hard, you're the a-hole. Her money is none of your business. If you were married, fine, she should say something. But dating less than a year? Nope. Masquerading around lower classes and seeing how we live? Are you serious? Dude, you're the red flag, double life here. On what planet can a lower class 23-year-old college student afford a brand new Tesla? Maybe this story is fake. Maybe you're just oblivious to what the lower classes means, but either way, you're the a-hole. Maybe she should have told you, though I can see her not wanting to be judged or used for her family's wealth. You call her trust fund baby and accuse her of just wanting to see how lower classes live when you drive a Tesla at 23. You aren't lower class, dude. Get off your high horse. Was ridiculous. Maybe the fact that you're so judgy is why she isn't speaking to you. You're the a-hole. Did you ever stop to think that maybe the reason she admitted the fact that she came from a wealthy family is because of the fact that she would be called a trust fund baby? Just because you come from wealth does not mean you have to flaunt it. Many people change their names for the same reasons she is given. Maybe she doesn't care about money, but quite obviously you do. Many wealthy people choose to live independently of their wealthy families because they want to be independent and not live off of them. She didn't exactly lie. She may not have been forthcoming in flaunting it, but there were no lies told. Are you mad because your girlfriend doesn't flaunt her parents' money? Because that's what it looks like to me. Your girlfriend does not need to tell you about her financial situation, let alone her parents. Your girlfriend has had a life way before she met you. You said she's living a double life, but I don't see that. From what you wrote, I would say that Jane is a humble individual that doesn't flaunt her parents' money. If she has refused to pay for things like outings or has asked you to cover one of her expenses and says it because she's broke, that is completely different, but you didn't seem to mention that at all. All the you're the a-holes are weird. She lied to you and you have every right to be upset about that. Since when is someone who pretends to be someone else to their significant other not in the wrong? I would probably go with everyone sucks here just for the last paragraph though. The problem was her lying to you, not really the simple fact that she has money. And you don't have much business throwing that in her face the way you did. Still, you're totally justified to feel lied to when it turns out your girlfriend of almost a year has been misleading you the whole time. Different story if she's always told you that she didn't want to talk about it and changed the subject. But it sounds like she went to some lengths to hide it and deceive you, which is definitely a kind of betrayal.